We are the champions, my friend.
Go Bulldogs, UMD, UMD.
And we'll keep on fighting to the end. And the UMD Bulldogs, Jerry, 0.0001 percentage point into the tournament. They squeaked into the tournament. They had to win 4 games, Jer, and they did.
And the funny thing about it, this has to be destiny.
Yeah.
Notre Dame got them in there by beating Ohio State in overtime in the Big Ten tournament championship game. We, like you said, 1/10,000th of a point over the Minnesota Gophers.
You know, this really is a storybook finish for this UMD Bulldog hockey team. D1 national champions in men's Division I college hockey. They did it, Chair.
The last team of the 16 to get in were the number 16 team, and here we are.
You know, I got to tell you, there's so much we're going to cover. This is really a championship episode. It has to be. We'll talk Wild hockey. They're in the playoffs against Winnipeg. But I was trying to compare this team to the 2011 championship team, and I started thinking, boy, that had a Hobie Baker winner on there with Jack Connolly.
Jack Connolly?
You had just these outstanding individuals, Fontaine, and the list goes on and on.
Right.
Kyle Schmidt with a game-winning goal, a Hermantown kid.
Right.
Go back to 1984. My goodness, you had McIvers and Watsons and Christensen and these Curvers, these iconic, legendary names.
Right.
Came that close against Bowling Green. It went to 4 overtimes and the Bulldogs lost. But I got to tell you, Jerry, I look at the photograph of this 2018 championship team. I don't know some of these players.
Well, they're so young. It's unbelievable.
So this is almost an unlikely championship team, but we'll take it.
Well, look it. They lost 7 key players of seniors. And let's see. We got Iafallo playing for the LA Kings this year. We got Toninato playing for the Colorado Avalanche. We got Piamp that left early that's playing for New York Rangers. We got Adam Johnson. Miska is in the American Hockey League. Who's the other player that played? But it's amazing. They lost 7 seniors, and 3 of their best players leave early. They bring in the back end, nothing. They don't know anything now. They know they recruited some good players, but they're so young, they're still wiping their nose.
Well, let's talk about recruiting. The Bulldogs will have a lot of sophomores next year that were on this championship team. They're losing some key seniors, like every team does every year.
Right, Carson Kuhlman and Jared Thomas stepped it up. Blake Young stepped it up this year. I mean, they're just amazing forecheckers. It's crazy.
It's amazing. It really is. But that goes to show you what happens when you get into a tournament, especially like this. They upped their game. They brought the level of their game up. Hunter Shepard, Shepdog, my goodness, what can you say about him?
I think he played just as good as Hunter Miska last year.
Isn't that something?
This whole season.
Yeah.
I mean, the way he played.
Kid out of Cohasset, played at Grand Rapids. So what do the Bulldogs do now? They've got their recruiting class set, but future recruiting classes, this is going to be...
It's going to help.
This is going to be a big bonus.
Oh, big. It's amazing how it makes it so much better for recruiting. When you win a national championship, kids want to come here.
Well, let's talk about the weekend in St. Paul, because again, St. Paul, the XL Energy Center, hosted this year's championship tournament, if you will, like they did back in 2011. And there was a lot of chatter on social media. What did you take away from this weekend? What are some of the things? You were there, Jerry.
Just how proud so many people were and how much credit they give to the coaching staff at UMD and the players for what they did from January 1st on. You know, the first half of the season, they weren't a good team. They were at the low end of the NCHC in the standings. And these coaches are saying, wow, it's just amazing how look at it. The last 3 games, the final game over in the regions, over in Sioux Falls, they beat Air Force 2-1. They come out the first period, boom, boom, and they could have scored 3 or 4 more goals that period, but they didn't do it. Then the second period, Air Force comes back and skating better, and they're getting some pucks deep and that, but UMD holds them off. Ohio State, they come out that first period, they score 2 goals. Same thing. Ohio State comes back the second period, starts skating better, changed their forecheck a little bit. They're starting getting a few pucks deep behind the D.
And that goalie for Ohio State, mind you, Mike Richter Award.
Yes.
Best goalie in the nation.
Yes. But then they do the same thing against Notre Dame. Last 3 games are the exact same thing. That first period, UMD dominates. Second period, they're kind of holding on. And
UMD dominated in shots 18-8. In the first period, UMD 10-7 in shots over North Dakota. Notre Dame.
Right.
18-8, UMD outshot Notre Dame in the second period. And in the third period, they outshot them 7-5. Total shots, UMD 35, Notre Dame 20. We're talking about the national championship game. I thought UMD, I watched it on TV, and what I saw, they dominated nearly every minute of that game.
Well, I'll tell you what.
With some exceptions, but overall, that was total domination.
If you're watching the game right at the rink and you're watching some of these players without the puck, how they pressure that puck. They don't let the other team. It's almost impossible. I mean, get pucks deep because the way they pressure that puck. And if you don't get pucks deep, you're not going to get too many chances to score. And another thing is, even when they did get a puck deep and that, or took a shot on net, they got that one shot and it came back out. UMD's defense did a hell of a job. They moved that puck out so fast after one shot that you never had second chances. And that's just great hockey.
5 of the 7 starting defensemen for UMD are freshmen. What are the chances this this defensive core will be intact next year?
Boy, that's a tough one.
Let alone 2 years, maybe even 3 years out.
We're talking about that too. There's probably 3 that possibly could leave early.
Perinovich?
He could be one. Nick Wolf, the sophomore. The senior member, sophomore.
Yeah.
And what about Sandberg? He played a heck of a... He was great this weekend.
Yeah.
Local boy, Hermantown boy, state champion at Hermantown. College, how many kids get to say that?
And
high school state championship and college national champion.
Back to back. Remarkable. Carson Kuhlman, Captain Kuhlman, if you will, scored a goal. Esco boy, Bulldogs took a 1-0 lead over Notre Dame. And then Jared Thomas from Hermantown got the second goal, and that's all they needed. So you got Esco and Hermantown for UMD getting this championship done. My goodness.
Kuhlman, what a tournament. Most valuable player of the tournament.
Yeah.
But like Sandlin says, he's been that way all year. He's been our leader. That's why he's our captain. If I had 25 Carson Kuhlmans, I would have the easiest job in the world.
Isn't that something?
He says, this is my favorite player.
You know, the UMD Bulldogs will have a celebration at Amsoil on Tuesday. We're taping this on Monday, by the way, April 9th. But Tuesday the 10th, they're going to be at the Amsoil for a celebration. And then after that, what do you think about next year? I'm just.
I hope they can stay, and sometimes that's the hardest job in the world to get those kids up again.
Yeah.
But they got some good kids coming in.
Name a couple. Who are some?
They got the Kate brothers from Stillwater. I think they're both coming in. They're forwards.
Now,
and one of them is one of the leaders in the USHL in scoring.
Okay, so when you say coming here, they're coming to UMD. They've already spent some time in the USHL.
Yes, one is in the second year and one is in his first year.
And who was that again?
The Cates from Stillwater.
Cates?
Yes.
The Cates brothers.
One's Jackson and one's Noah.
Okay.
I forget the first names.
Anybody?
But they're Stillwater. One of them was on ESPN a couple years ago against Hill Murray when he did that turnaround.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was on ESPN for about
a viral video.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Anybody else of notoriety you can think of?
Ah, boy, coming in right away. Well, I can't think right now. But they got a lot of young kids that are ready, verbally committed too.
Who are some of the seniors now next year? Who do we have out of the junior class that's stepping up?
Oh, let's see. Where's my lineup again? Boom, boom, boom. Who? Oh, we got Parker Mackay.
Yeah,
He had a great tournament. We
sure
got
did.
Riley Tufty will be a junior.
yeah.
Where are the players? I don't have the players.
See, what did we hear about this player that was injured? I heard he had
Oh, Kobe.
Roth.
Yeah.
I heard he had a broken ankle.
Yeah. It's so funny when you're watching it. I saw it over and over up in the press box. It looked like he went in with his shoulder and then his head hit the boards.
Yeah.
And that when we didn't think it was.
Well, it turns out to be an ankle.
Yes.
Any word on his status?
They say they might not have to operate. They're hoping that, but
Okay.
it can heal by itself. But they might have to do surgery. But he hasn't broken. But it was kind of nice. The players dressed him
Yeah.
and then got him back out.
He
on the
was-
ice.
he was
He had
back-
a boot on his.
He was back on the ice celebrating with the boys, and he had the biggest smile on his face. And I thought, well, that's a good sign. He's not in too much pain, at least not at that moment he wasn't.
Right.
But what an improbable run for this UMD Bulldog hockey team. What did we learn? That with the 16 losses, the Bulldogs ended the season 25-16-3. The 16 losses on the season are the most by a national champion in NCAA history.
Yeah.
The previous record was 14, and that was 1981. Wisconsin finished 27-14-1, and they went on to beat the Gophers here in Duluth.
And another funny thing is that the national title game, Frozen Four, have been in XL Energy Center 3 times, and the Minnesota team has won it all 3.
What?
UMD 2011, 2018, and the Gophers in 2002.
When do they host the next championship? Has it been announced yet?
They got the next 4, but it's not in St. Paul.
Oh,
so
darn
it, we can't win until. Come on, we want it back in St. Paul.
You know, I wonder if that matters much. I wonder if there's the same outcome if this is at a neutral site, so to speak.
You know what?
Chicago last year, I think.
Yeah,
was?
but I think when you have it in your home state, your local fans come out.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, after they won, you won't believe the people. You notice how many people bought tickets in the stands from scalpers and from other teams that, like say Michigan, those tickets, and it was over 10,000 in the stands waiting hour after the game. Like
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I heard there were no tickets left,
Right.
and that the tickets that you could get were from scalpers, other
Right.
people that had tickets.
Well, I talked to a few people, and I asked them when I saw them up in when they're inside the XL, how much they paid for them. And they said, "Yeah, we didn't know about getting the tickets for Saturday early, so we messed up there because I paid over $300 for Saturday night's ticket."
Cale Morris was that goaltender for
Yep.
Notre Dame, and boy, they really talked him up, and likely, and deservingly so. He won the Mike Richter Award, top goaltender in the nation, and the Bulldogs got 2 goals, took an early 2-0 lead until Notre Dame scored. And when Notre Dame scored, I'll tell you, I had a knot in my stomach.
Yeah,
I was pretty
getting nervous. Oh yeah, everyone
Really
was.
did.
Everyone
And
was.
I think in the back of our heads, we're thinking, Jesus, the freshman defenseman class going to let us down now? But they didn't, Jer.
But that first period, Kobe gets hurt.
Yeah.
And they threw Kuhlman out there on the 4th line. He was doing the 4th line and the 1st line.
Really?
Yes, he was doing both lines.
I didn't know that. I'm glad you brought that up. I
But
didn't
here's
know
what
that.
happened. Miller got him the puck, okay? And he comes in on top of the face-off circle, probably close to the middle, a little bit to the left, but he just sniped the puck. 1-0. Everyone went crazy. Then toward the end of the first period, Jared Thomas got in there and the puck got loose. Then Kuhlman got in there and forechecked, and the puck got over to Thomas, and Thomas just he was below the goal line, and he just threw it at the goalie's feet, and somehow it went in. There wasn't much room at all.
Hunter Shepard is a sophomore. Does he come back next year?
I think he does.
Yeah. Nick Deary, a sophomore, and then Ben Pat, a freshman from Ontario. Boy, I hope Hunter comes back next year. He's not been drafted, at least not up until now.
No, goalies usually don't get drafted.
You know, if that changes in this upcoming NHL draft, his stock has gone up quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
But
I hope Perinovich comes back. He'll be drafted this year, but his stock is going to go way up in the draft this year.
Hibbing kid, Scott Perinovich. You know, I liked the interview on the ice after the game was over. The on-ice interviewer asked Perinovich a question, and he said, "We just played Bulldog hockey." And without skipping a beat, the interviewer said, "What's Bulldog hockey?" And he didn't pause. He didn't seem, taken aback by the question. He answered the question. I don't remember how he answered it, but it was just a great tournament for these kids. I think that there's no doubt that they were more determined than North Dakota. And I watched the game, and I got to tell you, every minute of that game, with a few exceptions, UMD were the first to the puck.
Yep. That's what they do. They pressure the puck. They don't. You got to get to those dirty areas, and teams have a hard time doing that.
They weren't out of place.
No.
They played their positions
well positioned.
And that goes to the coaches.
Right.
Because these kids have been taught properly. And Scotty Sandlin deserves all the credit in the world, as do his head coaches or his assistant coaches, Brett Larson, Brett Nicklin, the volunteer goaltender coach.
Jason
Herter, thank you.
Yes.
These guys have got their work cut out for them. They're going to be hitting the...
Billy Watson, volunteer coach.
Billy Watson.
1984 team.
You just...
Goes on and on.
This is real exciting.
The whole team and support cast and everything, they did one hell of a job.
Prospective recruit. Well, we've got a national championship we just won. We've got returning freshmen. We think we're going to be good for maybe even a couple of more years. We've got a brand new arena. We've got a great city. We've got a great college. This is really something.
On my drive home late, because I was in the locker room, I was at the press conferences, but on my ride home I was thinking, boy, I see 400 games, sometimes plus a year of college, high school, pro, whatever. And I'm thinking some of the best coaching jobs ever. And I have to say, I almost put this on top, but I still have to go with Brooks, the way he coached the Olympic team over the Russians, but not beating the Russians so much. It's how he got that team back together to play the Finlander, which was a very good team on Sunday, to win
the gold medal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I have to put that as the number one coaching job of all time.
Nice.
Okay. Number two, I have to put UMD this year.
Oh.
I have to put UMD this year. Coming in, what they had, no one knew. They knew they got some good recruits, but they didn't know how they play together, how it might take a year, 2 years, But then I thought of another one, I think it was 2015. Duluth East was below 500, and Duluth East never had a team below 500.
Ever.
And Mike put a forward back up on top in the middle, so teams had a hard time getting that puck out. And the parents and the players were all just complaining, and it was terrible. Well, they got to the championship game in the state tournament. So I thought that was one of the best coaching jobs in high school.
So you're putting this coaching job by Sandlin,
this year,
number 2 behind Herb Brooks in
yes,
1980.
Best coaching job I've ever seen.
Wow.
Staff do. For number 2.
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you. I don't think anybody else would. And if they do, well, that's up to them. This is the first time since 1977 that the national champion won all of its tournament games by 1 goal. In 1977 and all instances prior, teams had only had to win 2 games to claim the NCAA title. The Bulldogs beat Air Force, Minnesota State, Ohio State, and North Dakota, Notre Dame, by 1 goal. They were this close, you can't even see, to not making it the tournament.
Hey, think about this. Coach
Man.
Sandlin this is his 4th Frozen Four. In Boston, 2004, 2011 when they won, last year in Chicago, and this year. And you know, the only team they ever lost to is Denver in their own conference. They beat every other team but Denver. Denver's the only one that held them back the 2 other times.
Thank you, Notre Dame, for beating Denver. Who beat Denver in the tournament?
Last year, Denver won it.
No, I know. This year. Who beat Denver this year? Was it St. Cloud? No.
Ohio State.
Thank you, Ohio State. Might have been a different outcome.
Yeah.
I don't know.
UMD.
I mean, we would have played Denver instead of Ohio
That's a team
State.
that UMD always has a hard time. They played good against Denver, but they didn't win a game this year.
Carson Coleman made the all-tournament team. Jared Thomas and Scott Perinovich and Hunter Shepard and most outstanding player, we'll call him MVP of the tournament, Carson Coleman. My goodness, Jer, I never dreamed that this team could be a national champion.
Right.
You know, they make the tournament, and then there's hope. And here they are on top.
Well, I'll tell you another thing. If you're a UMD Bulldog fan, I'd get up to the bookstore tomorrow. All the new clothing for the national champs is coming out, or come down to the Amsoil. I know this show won't be shown until Wednesday, but even Wednesday on, get up and get some of that clothing, man. That's just neat to wear. National champs, UMD Bulldogs.
You know, it's funny. The only thing I bought from the last championship in 2011 was a puck.
Really?
But I'm getting a hat this year.
There you go.
I'm getting myself a cap.
All right.
Hey,
well, let's talk real fast about the Wild. They're in the playoffs.
Wild end the regular season 45, 26, and 11. Good enough for 101 points. They finished 3rd in the Central Division, 4th in the Western Conference, and they finished 8th in the league. Game 1 against Winnipeg, the opening round of the playoffs. Game 1 Wednesday, April 11th, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I got all
Winnipeg.
Eastern times on my thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Friday the 13th, Game 2 at Winnipeg, 6:30. And then Sunday, the first game in St. Paul, Game 3, Sunday, April 15th at St. Paul, 6 o'clock.
Right.
And then Game 4, Tuesday, the 17th, 7 o'clock in St. Paul. And then Games 5, 6, and 7 if needed. But
Right.
Somebody asked me today, what are the Wild's chances of beating Winnipeg? And I thought about it for a moment. And I thought, well, the Winnipeg's a good team.
Right.
But this has kind of turned out to be a pretty good rivalry, really. And the Wild, they're going to need some puck luck, but they're capable of beating Winnipeg.
Well, it's going to be tough because they're going to be without Suter, their top defenseman, and their second defenseman. He hasn't played in the last.
But Jerry, we found out with the Bulldogs, young defensemen can get the job done.
Oh, we got a Susie coming.
Young defensemen can get the job done.
Carson's coming.
Who's this new guy, Louis Belpedo?
I don't know. He scored what did he get an assist the other night? Or
2 assists,
2 assists. Oh,
in his
wow.
first NHL
Wow.
game. He gets his first NHL points. I don't know if that's an NHL record or certainly a Wild franchise record, maybe, where you get 2 points in your first NHL game.
Well, I don't know. But I know they called up Carson for the
Susie.
Susie
Yeah.
for the games now Wednesday. Mm-hmm. So hopefully he'll be able to play.
What have you heard about Suter? Is this a severe injury?
Don't know. They're just not saying, but he's not going to play again this season.
Right. Broken ankle, was it?
Broken ankle and another bone broken on his leg, fibia or something like that.
Yeah. My goodness.
Yeah.
You know,
It didn't look that bad
no,
either.
It sure didn't.
And just like Kobe, it didn't look like his foot got. But
So the Wild are in the playoffs. They'll open up with Winnipeg. Eric Stahl tied the franchise record for goals scored in the regular season, 42, tying Marian Gaborik. And my goodness, he's only 33 years old, Eric Stahl.
Right.
And he's from Thunder Bay.
Well, before I get it out of my mind, let's put our thoughts and prayers for the Humboldt Broncos, the team that was on their bus and the big semi hit it and 15 died. And it was kind of nice to see the Chicago Blackhawks and the Winnipeg Jets all took their names off the back of their jerseys and put Broncos on it. for the game.
Did
Sunday.
they play the game that way?
Yes. And
I saw that.
They all got on the center ice, and one player from each team, every other one.
Yeah.
And unity in that for the hockey world. I tell you what, hockey people are the closest knit people when something goes wrong. And it's just great to see that. And like I say, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families and friends and everyone. Because Saskatchewan is just like Minnesota. It's families taking their kids to the rink, and then they get to the juniors finally. They're going to, a lot of bus drives, you know.
Yeah,
it's just sad that stuff like this happens.
It's terrible. It's heartbreaking. And I'm glad you brought that up. I saw the little ceremony on television prior to the national championship game where they had a moment of silence. And the Humboldt Broncos, based in Humboldt, Saskatchewan, just a terrible, terrible tragedy. And, you know, it's really something that we have to, you know, deal with stuff like that. But my goodness.
And some of the UMD players are connected with these kids. They played with them and that.
Yeah.
Like Blake Young and who was the other one that was talking about it, his friends and that. But there's a few, and so it's even closer to home than you think. You know?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Jared.
Yeah.
And we certainly are thinking and praying for those families, all those players and friends and the team itself, and hope that you know, they can make it through this. It's not going to be easy. But yeah, I wanted to ask you about the on-ice display that we saw at.
Nice. Boy, they do a job.
Is this something they've been doing for a while?
Yeah, it's getting better every year.
Okay.
Right before the game, they get the big bulldog out there, and the other side has the other team.
No, I'm talking about the light display.
Yeah, well, yeah, but they did everything. I mean, for about 2 minutes there.
Yeah.
Before the game, yeah.
So this is something they've been doing for a while?
Yeah.
During Wild games even, or?
No, they don't do it as much for Wild games. It's just for the NCAA gets this together for.
Well, I know Toronto and other NHL teams.
The Wild do some stuff, you know. They can put light, and they can do a lot of stuff now with this light show and that.
Wow, it was impressive.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm sure they're going to do something for the playoffs, the Wild.
So what's next for the Bulldogs? You know,
well, they got coaches meetings, which means drink a few beers with your fellow coaches all over the United States, down in Naples, Florida, play a little golf, talk about some new rule changes, how to build the game, and that's it. But now I think we have to go forward and get the Wild going now. See if we can get another champ.
Wild? Wouldn't that be something?
Be a great year for state of hockey.
I like your thinking. I like that kind of thinking. UMD 2, Notre Dame 1, national championship game in St. Paul, April 7th, 2018. We'll remember it for the rest of our lives, to go along with the other championship in 2011. And that 1984 championship game against Bowling Green, 4 overtimes, the Bulldogs lost. The sting, the wounds have been removed from that game. Great team, that 1984 team. Could have, should have won it, but nonetheless.
Twice now we took the sting out because we won. We got 2 national champs.
It's great.
Yep.
We want to thank the staff at PACT-TV where this program is produced. Look for us on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, Minnesota Hockey Connection. Go to our Facebook page. Like us on Facebook. And MinnesotaHockeyConnection.com. And congratulations to Hermantown native Sophie McGovern, game-winning goal against Elmira. She plays for Norwich in Division III women's hockey. I know her mother.
Yep.
And Sophie got the game-winning goal, a girl from Hermantown. Great job. And Jared, we'll be back here next week to drop the puck.
Okay, go Wild.